before this video starts, because it's my first video, I just wanted to give a quick introduction. So, hello, my name is Claire, and I'm going to be making videos on basically the books I read. I have 42 books currently on my shelf, and my goal is to read all of them. And so I compiled a list of challenges that I'm going to do with all of them. Today we're going to be exploring a novel called 355 by Kit Sergeant. And the challenge that I got was character analysis. So I'm going to be doing a character analysis on one of the characters in that book. Anyways, I hope you enjoy. So first, let me give you context on the book. So it takes place during the Revolution, the American Revolution. And it focuses on 3 women that acted as spies for Washington, supposedly. And basically it just goes through the story. So the 3 women are like Meg Moncriefe, Elizabeth Bergen, and Sally Townsend. And it just goes through each of their stories. Each chapter alternates between one of the 3. It's very fun. So at the beginning of the story, she starts off as just being like a really proper British girl who is very loyal to the British side. Even when she is forced to stay with an American general's family, she still never wavered from her side and stood firm on her beliefs. However, she fell in love with an American officer by the name of Aaron Burr. And she began to see the problem of that. But she still wasn't switching sides. So then one day she suggests to Burr maybe he switch sides, and he doesn't want to give up on her beliefs and his beliefs either. So she decides she wants this war to end quickly. And so she spies for the British. Eventually, though, the family she's staying with, the general, he receives news that the British are going to attack New York and that she has to go flee to the British side. And so she does. But there, she slowly begins to, like, how do I say this? Like, regret it in a way. She slowly turns sides. Because at the British, she's just like, oh yeah, I'm like happy for my American saviors, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, what? No. Especially since she's very in love with Aaron Burr. They're like, no, these rebels, they're like terrible. Like, how could you ever like them? Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. Yeah. In any case. Today, however, I'm only going to be focusing on one of the 3. Meg, as she's called the story, Moncriefe. Our first impressions on Meg are that she's a very, confident girl who really is just carefree. Being held at gunpoint, she remains confident, and soon enough that we find out that she's just 17 years old. Though she doesn't like being called a child. We also find out that she is the daughter of a British captain, and that she's been living with a Patriot family who are friends with her stepmother, which, due to her loyalist leanings, which she's very passionate about, she did not like, and so she wrote to her father being like, get me out of here. Eventually her answer came as one day she got a knock at the door. A man wearing a blue Continental uniform answered, asking for her. And when the man introduced himself as Aaron Burr and was working under orders of a Captain Moncriefe, Meg jumped with excitement. Burr informs her that she will be staying at the house of General Putnam in Manhattan. Meg was intrigued by Burr, and on the way there, they were just sharing, like, each other's life stories, and that's when Meg began to slowly catch feelings for Burr. Which is bad because, you know, loyalist, patriot kind of dynamic. Anyways, you'll find out why that's bad in, like, a second. Eventually they arrived at the house of General Putnam, 1 Broadway, and Meg gets introduced to their family. Quickly, she becomes friends with his daughters. And the next day, when they were trying to get more acquainted to her, things didn't go so well. They mentioned Burr, and immediately Meg's face went red, and she decided she wanted out of there. So she snuck outside just for a bit, and she comes across a spyglass. So she decides to look up through it and take in the sights of New York, until she gets interrupted by none other than Aaron Burr, sir. So Burr was just like, "Are we spying?" And she's like, "What? No, I just wanted to get away from these girls. I do not like it." And Burr is just like, it's just like, "Oh yeah, you know, the British, they're gonna come for us." And she's just like, "Well, yeah, if the rebels would just halt their independence, then we wouldn't have this problem." And so they go on and just, like, bicker about this for a bit, until Burr mentions that General Washington will be coming for dinner, and that she should maybe, like, stop talking so much like a Tory. And that, like, rage baits Meg. She gets really pissed off and stuff. Anyways, Washington comes over for dinner. Everything's going great until he decides to toast to Congress. Meg did not drink. Instead, she raises her glass and is just like, "Oh yeah, to Admiral Howe." And this pisses off Washington. So he's just like, "You're at my table now. We're gonna drink to Congress. And when you're at Howe's table, you can do whatever you want. But this is my table." And she's like, and she gets pissed off. In any case, remember the Putnam sisters? Well, they inform Meg that there's a ball going on and that there's gonna be a bunch of, like, guys there and that she should go. And she's like, "I don't know, but sure." And so they decide to go. Then, on the night of the ball, Meg runs into Burr again. I love this part of the story. And yeah, they basically dates in a way. Although, soon she starts talking to people, until she starts talking to Captain Webb. And she's like, "You know what? I need to get out of here. Where's Burr?" So she finds Burr, and Burr's like, "What the fuck? You could have asked, like, any other guy. Why'd you choose me?" And she's like, "What do you mean? Why should I choose any other guy when I have you?" Testing out her very great ability. And then she takes his hand, and Burr's just like, whoa. "You know this won't work, right? You realize that I'm a rebel, and you're a loyalist, and that I could be going to war at any point. You don't know if I'll die. Are you sure this will make you happy?" And she's just like, "Yeah, if it's with you, I'll be happy." And then Burr's just like, "Okay, but would you change your alliance for me? Would you betray your father?" And she's like, "Do I have to?" And she, like, overhand, and she's like, "Yeah, because I'm a part of the Continental Army, and if I'm with a loyalist, that's gonna ruin some things. Spoiler alert, she gets with the wife of a British officer later on. Anyways, Meg's still standing with her point of, I'm a loyalist, like, I won't betray my beliefs, blah, blah, blah. And here's the juicy part. So, Meg's just like, huh, that's it then. And then she's like, can I get a kiss? And Burr's like, what? Are you sure? And she's like, yeah. And so they kissed. And she's like, I would do anything for you. And that's where that complicated love story sort of crumbles. The next day, Meg woke up all hungover and stuff, still thinking about that kiss she shared with Burr. Until she heard that there was a redcoat at the door. Huh? And it turned out it was just like her good family friend, Thomas. And seeing Thomas made Burr very jealous. Like, insanely jealous. Gang, you were the one that said, oh, this is not gonna work out, blah, blah, blah. Why are you jealous? Either way, that's weird. So afterwards, Burr's acting all cold and distant to her. And she's like, what the fuck is this for? What did I do? And she's like, well, I gotta go survey the works. And Meg's like, I'll come with you. And he's just like, no. But then General Whittle comes in, and she's like, you know what? Sure, go with her. Go with him. So they rode along, and they come across a spy who's being beaten to death, basically, for being a spy. And Meg was just like, oh, shit. And this starts putting ideas in her head. Soon, her and Burr reach the docks, and they start to see all the warships and all this. And she was just like, you know, I wish this war would end as quickly as it begun. Then we can get married. And Burr's just like, in whose favor? The king's. And she's like, I don't care. I just want to be with you. I love you. Type stuff. And she's like, and Burr was just like, you know, I don't really, if this wins the Kings, I would, like, want to kill myself, basically. And then she's just like, I could get you a commission in the British Army. I could talk to my dad about that. And he's just like, girl, that's treason. And she's like, what? You wouldn't do this for me? You don't love me? And he's just like, you want two different things. This isn't gonna work. Like, and she's just like, but we both want each other. And he's just like, that's not enough, gang. And so she ran away crying. That night, Meg was just kind of contemplating what she can do to make it so that her and Burr can be together. And then she came across a good idea. Spying. She took note of all the ships that were in the harbor and everything and decided to draw them out, all the map plans. And then she decided she could get her friend Thomas to like, deliver them to, like, the higher-ups so they can get the information. It was a carefully planned plan, and somehow Thomas agreed to it. Because Meg will do anything for love. So now with every passing day, more British warships were in the harbor. And everyone was fleeing the city, which meant, well, the British are coming. In any case. And Meg knew something was off. Something was very much off. Anyways, one day, she got called in the old Put's office, is what they call General Putnam. And he just tells her, like, oh, could you, like, could you, like, help me sort some paperwork? And she's like, oh, sure. Perfect. And you know what this means. She can get more information for spying. But does she use it? I don't know. Suddenly, Burr enters the room bringing urgent news. He said that Howe has moved his troops and that they might be coming and to prepare for a possible attack. And which meant Putnam had to go out in the field to command. So, Meg's been told that she has to go back to the British side. So, that's what happens. So, Oldput's just like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, for what? And he's just like, I know you like it. I know you like him. And she's like, what? And he's like, stop acting so surprised. I've been in love too. And he's like, yeah. And he's just like, you know that Aaron and your father fight on different sides, right? And she's like, yeah, but, like, I would completely disregard my father's allegiance for, like, him any day. And he's just like, nonsense, stop that. And so Meg runs away crying, going to pack her things. The next day, she comes downstairs to say goodbye, and she sees Burr. And she's like, oh, have you come to say goodbye? And he's like, don't joke. She's like, I wasn't. And she's like, are you at least gonna come with me to my father's ship? And she's like, yeah, General Putnam, told me to. But I can only go as far as the docks, and then my, other officer will take you the rest of the way. Meg was just like, and Meg was sad. She's just like, oh. And the whole ride down to the docks was so awkward. She was apologizing to Burr, and she was just like, will you come for me after the war? Can we be together after this war ends? And he's just like, I don't know how long that will be. You'll probably be married by then anyway. And she's like, I will wait for you. All you have to do is ask. And he's just like, I can't ask that of you. And she's like, you won't wait for me? Then she's like, no. Let's turn back. We're going to find a clergyman and we're going to get them to marry us right now. And he's just like, no. And she's like, and he's just like, I'm a soldier that's ready to die for my cause. And he's also just like, every time I see your beautiful face, I also see the tyranny of England. And so General Putnam was right. Our love can never be. Then the carriage stopped at the docks. And then Meg was just like, maybe you'll find an independence. But as a woman, I will never be free to make my own decisions. Then she got out of the carriage and went onto the ship. And she said bye to Burr. When she boarded the British boat, she began to rethink all her life choices. Spying, being a loyalist, everything. And this began to show when, eating dinner, she decided to toast to her rebel family who housed her. And everyone was shocked, was like, what the fuck? But Admiral Howe was just like, whatever, she just joking. The next day, Meg was summoned by Admiral Howe. She wanted to deliver a letter to him from General Putnam, but when he took it and read it, he realized that it's actually for her. And so she took it back and read it. And she's like, oh, yeah, it is literally for me. Then she asked him about her father. And Howe's like, oh yeah, he's just joining the troops in some town. But Meg's heart felt broken because maybe the general was right. And her and Aaron maybe weren't meant to be because of her father and him being on opposite sides of the war. Anyways, the admiral then told her to sit, and she said that it's not the only letter that he received from the Putnams. He said he was referring to the intelligence she had sent her long ago. And so he was questioning her on that and told her. And she thanked her and went off. But on the condition that he would leave the Putnams in Erin if they were captured or anything. And then Meg was reunited with her father. Both were so ecstatic to be reunited. And he commented on how Meg doesn't seem so young anymore. And Admiral Hall came over. She's like, no, she's quite the woman now, and she's made a few admirers of my men. She's like, oh, thank you. And Captain Moncrief's like, whoa, she's still too young, calm down. And Hal's like, young in age, but not in temperament. But then the Admiral informs him that the city was up in flames, or at least the west half of it, and this made Meg worry about Aaron Burr. What if he got burnt? What if something happened to him? Now I'm going to say it's around this time where she begins to slowly stop leaning so much loyalist. So the next few chapters of her story are pretty boring, I'm going to say. Like, she has a house now with a roommate named Mercy, whatever her last name is. And they go to a ball and she meets this weird Irish noble who she really doesn't like, but he plays a big role in, like, a bit. And also she's still, like, yearning for Burr. Like, she's just like, I miss him so much. And her dad's like, well, you know, you're gonna need to find some, like, British man to marry. You know, you're getting at that age. Anyways, remember that random Irish noble? His name is John Coughlin. Weenie name. He is weird. Meg does not like him one bit. But he really likes Meg. And so her father takes notice and invites him over for dinner. And Meg's like, what? No. What? And so her dad's like, you know what? You should marry this guy. I can get you, like, a special license and you guys can get married and all this. She's like, no. He's weird and I'm too young. Her dad's like, nonsense. And Colin's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love to marry her. And so she runs up crying as she does and writes a letter to Burr, which her father finds and was like, bitch, what is this? You're in love with a rebel? No daughter of mine is going to be in love with a rebel. You're going to marry Coughlin, and if you don't like it, I'm disowning you. She's like, fuck. And then she's basically forced to marry Coughlin. And that's what happens. And then it gets really weird. Because basically, like, he's very abusive to her. You know? Like, he abuses the living heck out of her. I won't get into it because, you know, YouTube doesn't like that. Apparently. But yeah. And so she needs to find a way out. Anyways, her way out came in the form of John Andre. Yup. British head of intelligence. He basically was like, I know you're being abused. Low-key, just come with me. You can stay with me. And they kind of have, like, a sort of, like, friendly... It's more platonic than anything. And so he conjures up a plan. He says, here, just drug up your husband. It will knock him out, and then you can run away. And so she does. She drugs him. He, like, collapses. And she goes with Andre. And now life is good. But she still pines for Burr. And then, if being abused wasn't bad enough, she found out that Burr actually, like, fell in love with a British officer's wife. And so she was heartbroken. And she's like, what do I do? Hey, you know what? Andre's kind of cute. But Andre didn't share those feelings. And she's like, well, damn, what else can I do? But, like, she's kind of done. But, like, the romance stuff kind of stops for a bit. And then all three of the protagonists meet at this, like, tavern. And she meets Elizabeth Bergen, whose husband died in the Battle of Long Island. And that's when she realized, oh shit, I did that. And so she blames herself and starts panicking and crying and all that. And she's like, fuck, I'm done with spying. And so, yeah, that's the end of her spying business. Oh yeah, remember Andre? He also died. He was caught for being a spy and died. And that made Meg really sad. Then she realizes she has nothing left here and goes back to Europe, where she has many affairs with men. And that's basically the end of her story. Yup. Great ending. Anyways, for the rest of this analysis, I'm going to just be talking about some of her, like, great traits and what I enjoy about this character and what drew me to her and why I decided to make this. Well, Meg at the start of the story, she was very loyal to her cause. It's just like your average 17-year-old carefree teen with lots of trauma, considering her mother died, and then all her stepmothers died, and yeah. And just like any teen girl, she falls in love with a guy who, it was just unrequited love. That's all it was, which broke her heart. And over the course of the story, because of this love, we slowly see her turn sides. Like, she stops worrying about, like, oh, king could, like, for the king and all this stuff. She's now worries about, like, maybe I'm not making the right choice. And she just becomes very indecisive and overthinks because she just wants love. She's doing anything for love, which I can get around. I mean, I've done stuff for love. And I think this makes her such an interesting character because she's so ambitious. She's like, she goes to extreme lengths to get what she wants. Like, when she literally started spying on the British so the war could end, so she could maybe have a chance, like a slight chance to be with Burr, which obviously fails, but yeah. Then towards, like, the middle of the story, when she's back on the British side and her father's, like, sets her up in arranged marriage, we slowly see her, like, just becoming depressed, basically. And she slowly realizes that maybe this is not for me. And, like, blaming herself for everything. So, yeah. I don't really know what else to add on this video. I mean, I could talk about the book. Very good book. I highly recommend you read it if you're, like, into, like, history. The American Revolution, or, like, if you've seen Hamilton or Turn or whatever, like, read this book. It's so good. It's also really easy to read. Like, you'll finish this in, like, maybe a day, a few hours if you're a fast reader. It's, like, almost 400 pages. And each chapter, what I like about it is each chapter, it changes perspectives. It goes from Meg's to, like, the other characters' perspective of each chapter, and it just makes the story feel so engaging. Like, you get to see everyone's perspective on this issue. I don't know, it's just a really cool book. Anyways, I hope you liked this video. I know it was just me yapping for, like, an hour almost. Half an hour. But, yeah, I think I might make more videos like this. This is my first video, so I didn't really know what to do or what to say. I'm really bad at explaining my thoughts. But, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll make more. Like, eventually, when I get to reading the other 41 books on my shelf.